वाह 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 टोपी वाले
I, I request uh, to mute all your mics so that we can avoid all the disturbances. I request all the students to mute your mics. I could hear a lot of disturbance. Well, this morning we had a discussion about how to come up with creative writing. We had an activity, and some majority of the students did a wonderful job. And I wanted to talk about some tips, to improve your creative writing. I know, majority of you are pretty much aware, and but still there are a few tips and even a techniques, which you need to work on, like to improve your creative writing. So in this class, I'm going to concentrate on tips to improve creative writing. So please do listen, and so that we'll have a discussion at the end of the class if you have any questions and queries. Yes. Look at the first statement or maybe first tip, which I wanted you to follow very seriously and regularly, rigorously rather, because what happens like with most of the students, they wanted, they would love to improve and they would love to improve even their written communication and as well as spoken communication. But what happens with us, like we never try and we don't even work hard, to improve. Simply we say that, sir, could you please tell me some tips, how to improve, my spoken communication or my written communication, rather even creative writing. And several times, I have been asked, I was asked rather by many of the students, that could you please suggest me, how to improve my spoken communication. So it's fine. The reason is, like, we always look for shortcuts and we don't keep any effort and we don't read a lot. But when it comes to creative writing or even any kind of skill, and you need to keep 100% effort, then only you can improve your uh, oral communication and as well as even a written communication. So in order to improve your creative writing skill, the first tip which I wanted to tell you that, let me read it out. I have been getting, these students, like, that is a lot of disturbance for me, admitting them in between. Okay. Yeah, the first tip which I wanted you to remember. This admit. If you don't read, you can't write. So
मेरे खिलाफ है कहाँ पे दिखा लूँ हाँ
please stop mute.
यस
Please mute your mics. Please mute your mics. I could hear a lot of noise. As I already told you that if you have any questions and queries, I will be clarifying them at the end of our class. So till then, I want you to mute your mics.
मेरा दिखाई दे रहा है
Please, it's requested to all the participants that mute your, yeah, that was a Fazal Hussein requested all the students, to mute your mics. Thank you. Yeah, the first and foremost tip which I wanted to you to realize or maybe to know about, to improve your to improve creative writing, that is, if you don't read, you can't write. Can somebody tell me what have you understood by looking at this tip, or maybe by looking at this statement? Can anybody? If you want to write well, or maybe if you want to become a good writer, you have to read a lot. You do not have
Yes, sir.
you do not have any other shortcuts. And you cannot simply say that, yes, I've been writing and I've been doing that, okay, but still my written communication hasn't got improved. But that's very true. I agree with you. But at the same time, until and unless you put your ideas on paper, and it's very difficult, okay, for you to understand or realize what exactly the mistakes which you are making. So it's very important, okay, in order to become a good writer or a creative writer rather, and you have to read a lot. Until and unless, okay, you read a lot, you cannot become a great writer. And on this occasion, let me quote even a Francis Bacon's, okay, quotation. And he says that reading makes a full man, and writing makes an exact man, whereas conference makes a ready man. Actually, the exact quote goes on like this: reading makes a full man, conference makes a ready man, writing makes an exact man. If you want to be an exact man or a woman, and it is very important for you to read and to write a lot. So the only thing you have is, like, if you want to become a great writer, or if you want to become, if you want to be very creative in your writing, and you have to read a lot. You do not have any other shortcuts. So that is why, and one of his famous essays he talked about, that is Of Studies, which was written by Francis Bacon, and who happened to be a French philosopher, a guide and torchbearer. And he talked about the importance of writing. And he says, reading makes a full man. Like, once if you start reading, and it will definitely become, and it will definitely improve a lot, because reading helps us to improve our pronunciation. Reading helps us to understand even structures of language. Reading also helps us and to improve our vocabulary. So if you want to write, okay, if you want to improve your written communication, and as well as even a spoken communication, these three things are very much essential. Because until and unless you read something, you cannot get familiar with what exactly the updated vocabulary. So if you want to become an effective writer or maybe creative writer, it is very important to get update with your vocabulary. And at the same time, you need to be familiar with all the grammatical structures. So, and apart from that, if you want to improve even your pronunciation, and reading is one of the best options through which you can improve a lot. So if you don't read, you cannot become a good writer. So read a lot in order to become a great creative writer, so that like you can write very effectively by using an effective vocabulary, and as well as good structures, grammatical sentences which are grammatically accepted. Okay. And second, let me talk about second important quality: conduct research. Like, what does it mean? What do you understand, okay, when you talk about, okay, the second tip, or when you look at, or maybe when you read the second tip, that is conduct research? Can somebody respond for that? Anybody? Can someone respond for that? Conduct research, what do you understand? Any one of the students?
Are talking about content, sir?
Anything, whatever you understood, okay, by looking at that.
No, sir. The second tip is content. I'm talking about content.
No, it's right? Not. It's not content. It is about conduct. Conduct.
Conduct.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, sir.
Yeah. It's not content. So, what do you understand by looking at the second tip, or maybe the second statement, okay, in order to improve, or maybe in order to become an effective writer? Anybody? It doesn't matter.
Looking expression.
Looking expression. Okay.
And inquiry. His behavior and
okay, one by one. Yeah.
Looking expression, his behavior,
Okay.
and his gesture.
Okay. Okay, that's good. Thank you. Looking at his behavior and gesture,
Try to
and
investigate something new.
I'll come to you. I'll come to you, gentlemen. Let him finish, and let me repeat all the points. Okay, as one of your friends spoke about, and according to one of your friends, I think this is Nazrul Islam. Okay, I think he was the one who gave me all these points, and
Sir,
maybe not. Okay, no
sir,
problem.
conduct research, inquiry based process,
Exactly.
conduct research.
You are absolutely right, gentlemen. Thank you. Thank you so very much. Yeah. As one of your friends said that, okay, it is all about, okay, body language. Like we could say that, okay, all the features he talked about, like all the features he talked about, like body, that covers in a body language. Like he talked about hand gestures, and he also talked about knowing behavior, and he also talked about even other points. Okay, simply we could say that, okay, body language. He spoke about even a behavior. Yeah, that's true. Conducting research doesn't mean that, okay, we talk about a body language of a person, but as one of the students, okay, rightly said about that, like inquiring research, like before you talk about, or maybe before you start writing something on a piece of paper, like make sure that, okay, you try to understand what exactly the intention behind it. Let's say that, okay, if you are writing if you are writing an essay on global warming, like without, okay, having any idea about global warming, or maybe let us say let us talk about even a demonetization. Suppose if I ask you to say something about, or maybe to write an essay about demonetization, or maybe coronavirus, or maybe any other okay, latest topics, so you cannot simply talk about, or maybe you cannot simply whatever it comes in, whatever it comes to your mind, you cannot just put on paper. You need to have proper evidences and proper statistical surveys. And first and foremost thing is, you do read a lot of material, and which will support, okay, to improve your written communication. See, after reading a lot of material, let's say that, okay, books and newspapers and even online and offline material, and after conducting research doesn't mean that, okay, you need to go and speak to the people. That is also part of it. And we do go to the some expertise, and okay, we do interview. Okay, interview is the part of even a conducting research. So what I mean to say that, like if you start writing, let us imagine, or maybe let us assume that, okay, I just gave you, or maybe I just asked you, okay, to write an essay on coronavirus. So what we usually do is, like we do go to the people, let us say the doctors who have been treating, or maybe who have been in front line, and we'll go and speak to them. And afterwards, we'll also read even some magazines and even some newspapers, and we will also even watch even a media. And apart from that, we do conduct, okay, we do read a lot, both online and offline material. After doing, okay, this primary work, we start reading and we start writing about it. So that is why there is a interconnection between a first tip and even a second tip. When you talk about a first tip, okay, if you don't read, you can't write. The second one is conduct research. Okay, that is what, there is an interconnection between a first tip and even a second tip. Once if you start, before you, okay, coming up with your creative writing, or maybe if you want to become an effective creative writer, and you have to read a lot, and by doing all this. And let us move on to even a third point, as one of your friends rightly talked about, okay, we do conduct, okay, some kind of inquiry research through interview and through even other modes. Let find your voice. What does it mean? Is it that, okay, we come to know about, okay, whether we got with a beautiful voice, or whether we are speaking in American accent, or Britain accent, or maybe any other, or what have you understood, okay, by looking at this third point? Find your voice. What have you understood? Can
We can
someone?
write
Yeah.
according to the
Can you just
person
say? Can
and
you just say?
people.
Can you just say your name?
Nazrul Islam.
Yeah, Nazrul.
Yes.
I request
If
other
we are
participants to
going,
mute your mics. Yeah.
we are, if we are going to write,
Mm.
we can understand those people who are in who is my letter for him.
Okay, okay,
We can
great.
write, and we can't use those types of words which
Okay,
can't be understood
okay,
without looking for
okay,
dictionary or difficult word. And we
okay,
ignore difficult word, and we
okay.
understand the people from whom we can write.
Okay.
We are going to write.
Yeah, I got your point. Okay, what you wanted to say that okay, once if we start writing something, and make sure that okay, will understand your target audience. That is what you wanted to convey. If I'm not wrong. Hmm? So knowing your audience, knowing your target audience is very important. Once if we start writing a paper, or maybe once if we start writing something. Okay. Anybody else? Anybody else? Find your voice. Anybody? I request all the participants to mute your mics. Yeah. Do we have any other
In
any other students? Yeah.
inside creative expression,
Your voice is not audible, dear. Can you be little louder?
inside creative expression,
Okay. Okay.
inside to creative expression.
Okay. Okay. As one of your friends, okay, rightly said, okay, he said something about yeah, creative research.
Please write heading.
Okay, Talib Hussein. Talib wanted to say something. Talib,
Point your voice, sir.
yeah.
In shortly, I want to say that it means that with whom we are going to be in the talk.
Okay, fine. I think there is some disturbance. Okay, I'll attempt all your questions and okay, let me just explain, and I will clarify your
Sir,
doubts. And,
sir, it would be better if you write your answer in the chat box, sir.
okay, fine, fine. Yeah, that's good. That's good. Yeah. Well, find your voice is all about okay. I'm not going to ask anybody. Like I will be
Sir,
taking
write.
your.
Please write deadline.
I will take your responses okay at the end of my class so that we can avoid all the disturbances. Okay. Yeah. Find your voice is all about okay. Like see, each writer will have their own identity in their writings. Suppose if you find okay some Urdu writers, like suppose even let us take an example of even some poets, even some dramatists, and even some other authors, and Chetan Bhagat also. Like when you talk about okay Chetan Bhagat, by reading okay his fiction itself, we can identify he has his mark. Okay, so though we don't listen to him personally, but still after going through, or maybe once if we start reading okay his novels, we'll come to know his signature mark through his writings. Similarly, when you talk about even some Urdu writers also, like we do find okay their identity with their writings. And suppose
मतलब
similarly,
अगर प्रधानमंत्री के मृत्यु होले तो पूरा सरकारी चीज छै ना सरकारे निरस्त हो चुनाव जे छै ना मतलब यानी ओकरो इम्पैक्ट
I request to mute your mics. Yeah. Next one is make a routine and stick to it. Okay. Like you don't need to experiment a lot many things. Okay. Once if you start writing, okay, too many things. And so make sure that okay, you once if you begin with okay, there will be some kind of connectivity in your creative writing. And then don't mistake mystery with obscurity. Like sometimes okay we do try and we do experiment many things in one particular thing, and don't go with that. Okay, try to stick to the point and make sure that okay each and every paragraph okay will give you one idea. Because what happens okay with most of our students okay, and once while evaluating their papers, what we identified is like they begin with one idea, and all of a sudden they start and they jump for they come up with a new idea. Make sure that one paragraph should convey only one idea, but not too many ideas. So if at all, if you think that, okay, you are introducing a new idea, and you will, it is always better to begin with some, okay, new paragraph instead of continuing, or maybe instead of, okay, talking about within that paragraph. That's how you have to. And know your audience, as we already talked about. Okay, it is very important. We cannot, okay, simply write. Suppose if you are talking about, okay, BA students, or maybe if you are talking about let us say that, okay, some it is very important to know about your audience. Let us say that when you talk about even Chetan Bhagat's most of his fiction, his audience are 90% of his audience are students, because students would love to read his novels, because most of his fiction is based on, okay, his campus life, or maybe his experience, okay, on campus. So majority of the students would love to. Similarly, if you talk about even other, let us say that, okay, one of the famous business magnate in India, I think her name begin with Narayana, some name, and she talks about, okay, management people, and her target students, her target readers are management, okay, and software people and technical people. So each one of them have their own audience. So it is very, very important, okay, to know our target audience. Suppose once if we start writing, we were talking about, yeah, this morning's class we had an activity about Jew. Like most of our activities were related to school kids, because it was all about, okay, sharing. It was all about sharing our experience, and you all shared your experience. Okay, how did you spend, and what could you see on Jew, and how did you spend your with friends? So it was a kind of an experience, okay, which you had when you visited a Jew. So similarly, so here target audience, we could say that, okay, a school students or maybe a college students. So it is very important, okay, to keep in mind that, like, who are your target audience once if you start writing anything. Don't use intoxication as a creative method. Sometimes, okay, we try to create a lot of, okay, problems by using a bombastic vocabulary, and which is most difficult, and which is more difficult because readers, okay, for each and every word they feel difficult, okay, to understand what exactly the message is all about. So it's very important, okay, to make it very simple and clear, and with brevity and precise and neat. That's how you have to do. And practice the craft. See, we cannot come up with, okay, first draft at a first attempt. It takes a lot of time. There are certain steps, okay, which we need to follow in creative writing. Like when you talk about, okay, let us take an example of once if we start writing an article, it takes minimum 15 to 1 month time. And within this 1 month time, what we do is first we try to think about, okay, the title which we are going to talk about. The second important point, what we are going to do is we try to gather all the ideas. Once if we gather all our ideas and we try to put on paper, then we organize our text, and then we talk about all the references. And so that's how it has all the, okay, steps. And then we complete rough draft. Then we edit, and we read the entire thing. Then we make it as, okay, fade draft. Finally, we submit. So it needs a lot of things. Please, I request all the students not to say, do anything on a PPT. Uh, yes. The next one is reach out to others. And that is what, like, again, like when you say that, okay, when you talk about the ninth important tip, okay, which can be implemented in our creative writing, it is all about make sure that, okay, though your physical presence might not be there in front of them, but still with your vocabulary, with your words, and with your content, and it will be reaching them, and it will be communicating them, and it will be conveying the message, okay, what exactly you wanted to convey with them. And workshop it. Again, workshops will give us an opportunity to practice a lot. Suppose if you take an example of this morning's class, we had a lot of discussion, and we did have, okay, you did have practice, and you came up with a beautiful short stories about visiting the Jew. So like the more we conduct, okay, the more we attend even a workshops, which creates us, okay, a lot of which gives us a lot of opportunities, okay, to improve our creative writing skills. And 11th one, which is very very important, as we already talked about, okay, when the first point, like if you don't read, you can't write. Similarly, when you talk about even a 11th tip, okay, which I wanted to emphasize on it, revise, revise, revise. It needs a lot of practice, okay. Make sure that, okay, you'll Irfan Hussein, I'll attempt your question at the end. Just let me complete this explanation. Yeah, revise and revise and revise. This is very important. That is what I was just saying, that okay, once if you start writing any short story, make sure that it's not only just even a short story, any kind of any kind of piece of writing, okay, once if you start writing it, make sure that, okay, you will thoroughly proofread it and edit it and make it rough draft, then finally make it as a fade draft. And at the same time, take care of your language. What kind of vocabulary does that vocabulary is an appropriate, and am I using, okay, grammatically accepted all these sentences. We cannot become, okay, perfectionist, okay, in a first attempt, but it will take a lot of time, and it needs even a constant practice. So if you want to have a constant practice, the best, okay, tip which I wanted you to follow is, that is, revise, revise, revise. Kill your darlings. Don't take it as a literal meaning when you talk about kill your darlings. Okay, don't try to kill anybody here. But what I'm telling you that, okay, it's all about usage of and selection of vocabulary and selection of language. How you try to attract your audience. Darlings doesn't mean that, okay, your beloved one. But what I'm talking about is like it's all about your target audience. Suppose, let us say that, okay, the kind of vocabulary will create an impact and all the readers. So make sure that the kind of vocabulary which you choose in your creative writing, that will create a lot, that will create an impact on the audience. So don't take it as a literal. Yeah, submit widely. Like, don't ever submit, okay, only in one place. It is always better to submit in three different platforms, so that you would come to know like what are the mistakes which you've been doing, and that's how you can improve that. Next, don't self-publish. It is always better, okay, to give it to someone, okay, who are very good at, okay, even a writing. Suppose, let us say that, okay, this morning what had happened, you wrote a short story according to or based on your experiences, and afterwards I went through your short story, I read it, and I gave you some inputs. So similarly, instead of, okay, publishing it on yourself, it is always better, okay, to take help from some of your friends, those who are very good at written communication, and you just ask, okay, to suggestions and to improvise your writing. That's how we improve ourselves. Next, go to school doesn't mean that, again, like you have to be like a school child while doing and while coming up with a creative writing. So that will definitely enhance your written communication. So these are all the tips, and let me just read out all the tips, like whatever we talked about. Yeah, the first tip which I talked about, if you don't read, you can't write. The second one is conduct research. And third one, find your voice. And fourth one, make a routine and stick to it. And don't mistake mystery with obscurity. Know your audience and don't use intoxication as a creative method. Then we talked about practice the craft. And we also talked about reach out to others. And we even talked about workshop it. And revise, revise, revise. Then kill your darlings. Please don't take it a literal meaning. It means that, okay, it is always better, okay, once if you start writing something, make sure that, okay, you talk, you keep in mind your audience. Submit it widely.
So 7
Don't selfish publish. Okay, so these are all the few
7
points.
number.
Yeah, if you really want to improve, okay, if you I
Okay,
request,
so wait, just a minute.
I request all the students to mute your mics.
The person
Yeah.
Mozim Raza is speaking a lot. Please close your microphone.
Well, if you are really passionate about okay improving your creative writing, I request okay you to go through these books. Maybe they might be available even on Google in a PDF forms. They will give you some tips and even a more introduction about okay what exactly creative writing is all about, apart from even all those 15 tips okay which I talked about. If you want to know more about okay and how to improve your written communication, and these three books are very much helpful okay to improve your creative writing. One is In the Palm of Your Hand by Stu Covett. Like that's one of the popular books which you can read to improve your creative writing. The second important book which we have is that is Story Genius by Lisa Korn, and that is also one of the beautiful books okay which helps you to think imaginatively and to come up with okay and to develop your ideas. Okay, and third one is On Writing by Stephen King. So these are all the three beautiful books which will help you to improve your creative writing. And make sure that okay like I'm not requesting you to buy all these three books, but at least okay if free PDFs are available on Google, you can download them and you can go through them once in order to improve your creative writing skills. So yeah, there is a lot of, I don't know who is doing all these things, but this slide has got really, yeah. This is the beach story. And since we already came up with okay all the tips okay how to write effectively, and have a look at this image when you come back to tomorrow's class. Okay, if you want to take a snap of it, okay, you can take or a screenshot. Yeah, screenshot of okay. This, yeah, screenshot of this pic if you want, you can take.